So here, where we're at today is our homestead that we has been in our family since 1809. We're a Kentucky bicentennial family farm. It's changed a lot over the years, even just in my lifetime. I am the 7th generation here, and we have been in the cattle business since my granddad's time, probably in the 40s. Late 40s, he started in the registered Angus seed stock business, and we kind of evolved away from that into more of a commercial business. For a lot of years, we were finishing our own cattle out to slaughter that we raised. We ran about 250 cows, and then the market continued to evolve and change. When I was a kid, we were selling fat cattle at Bourbon Stockyards in Louisville or to Dawson Baker. Or we sent some to Montgomery, Alabama, to Morrell, and all those places have closed up now, and things have changed, and the packing plants got further away. So we changed probably in about the last 15-20 years. We've been strictly backgrounding cattle, our own cattle, and also bringing in calves and backgrounding. The big reason why we started trying to find a way to integrate in buy some calves and bring some in that were not raised was mainly because we saw the value of being able to have load lots and kind of economy of scale type thing. And started out, sometimes our numbers wouldn't work out right. We wouldn't have a equal number of loads, or so if we could find source calves that were similar in type and kind to what we had, we would try to purchase those and then bring them in and put them through the same backgrounding program that we were putting our own calves through, and be able to have load lots that way. When I buy calves, I like to buy 4 weights, 4 to 450 weights, usually buy balling calves. I get them through either local stockyards. Sometimes I'm able to procure some from some neighbors because they've gotten to know that that's sort of what I'm doing now. And so I like to get them in, get them on starter ration and hay. We try to totally isolate any calves that come in from off the farm that aren't something that was homegrown. I like to for about 6 weeks, definitely 4 weeks. We try to, if we have enough room and can keep them spaced out for 6 weeks or so before they can come into contact with any of our homegrown cattle. I like to say we kind of have a hybrid type deal here because, I mean, we're cow-calf people, but we're also doing this backgrounding thing. And my calves that I'm raising on cows, a lot of times it really just depends on our feed situation. If we've got a lot of feed, the cows are doing good, we may not wean quite as early. We may leave them out there, until they're up 550, 600 maybe. If we are running a little short on feed, we need to get cows worked and turn them back out on grass, then they may be closer to that 5 mark. But I'm probably, as a general rule, buying a little bit smaller calves than what I'm bringing in from the cows. And part of that's a timing thing too, because if I'm going to buy some, I like to have them started and rolling pretty good, and have most of the health problems worked out before I have to worry about weaning calves and bringing them in and going through it all again. Isolation's a big thing, especially with bringing in cattle onto the farm. And that gets to be difficult sometimes because you have to have enough pens and enough space. But that has been really key for us, is having a pretty strict isolation period with those cattle that we're bringing in. I've learned the hard way, and cause a train wreck quick if you let groups of cattle where they can get nose to nose. And so that's a really, really important part of what we're doing here, is keeping those cattle separate for a pretty good period of time. So with health, that's a huge issue in this business, and I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. It seems like if you get a good handle on a disease, then something else is popping up or coming around the corner. So with this type of situation I've got with cattle that are coming in off the farm, cattle that have been raised on the farm, really try to treat them both about the same. Of course, we don't have quite as much problem generally with home raised cattle, but when they come in on arrival, I treat them like they just got taken away from their mamas that day. So they're stressed, they're bawling. So I have learned that it doesn't work too well for us to hit them with a bunch of vaccines that first day, especially like modified lives and stuff. It makes them, they don't feel good, and they're already under a lot of stress. Their immune system's stressed. So the last few years, what I've kind of developed here is the day they come in, we give them a nasal vaccine that day just to try to get some pretty immediate immunity, and everything gets an antibiotic when they come off the trailer. And we just kind of treat them with the assumption that they have got some sort of bug or picked one up in the process of getting here. Then I like to let them settle in about 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. If they're settled in good and they're eating good and everything's going pretty smooth, then we come back with the rest of our vaccine regimen. Most of the time on arrival also we'll go ahead and deworm them when we're doing the nasal vaccine. And then in 2 to 3 weeks, I like to come back with the rest of the vaccine regimen. Implant. A lot of times I'm buying bulls. We usually castrate there at that time too. I surgically castrate everything. It's just the way I was taught, the way my dad taught me, the way his dad taught him, and just what we're comfortable with and what works. We keep everything up for, like I said, we're at about week 3 there. We like to keep them up for about 3 more weeks, get to that anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks before that's when I always say we're over the hump, when we get to that mark. Seems like a lot of times when I have sickness problems, the bad weeks are like week 3 and week 6 when receiving cattle. So those are the 2 weeks I tend to try to really watch out for, and if I get past them, I usually feel like we're kind of over the hump then. Feeding program, we put up a lot of haylage, a lot of rye haylage, and then we chop corn silage. When I'm starting these calves out, we're usually just trying to get that rumen working good, so we're feeding more of a dry hay then before we start into the haylage. We're kind of old school. We try to bucket feed them when we bring them in, just to get everybody settled down. I found that it not only it helps calm the cattle down, but it helps us because we're able to monitor them a lot more closely. You know, if calf doesn't come up to the trough when you're out there, what's going on with this calf? Is his head drooping? Is he not feeling good? So we like to try to hand feed during that 4 to 6 week kind of beginning period when it's kind of all hands on deck. You gotta really watch things closely. Then we will start changing over to more of a haylage and corn silage diet, which we'll top dress with about, starting out, we'll probably be top dressing about 5 pounds of a ground corn and supplement. I'll probably adjust that up to, once we get them up and they're 650, 700 pounds and we're really starting to push them, we'll go to more like a 7 to 10 pound ground feed top dress on the corn silage. Generally, I keep calves here backgrounding them until they're about a year old. We're going for that, I'd say on the steers, 800, 850 pound range. The heifers, we may move a little quicker, but everything is basically here until they're a year old, or really maybe give or take a month on that. And then we start trying to market. I've market several different ways. I've done the traditional sale yard. I've had buyers come in and buy them off the farm. We've done some video sales a couple times here recently, but we like to try to have really good cattle so that our reputation is kind of out there, so that people that are in the business of procuring cattle for the feed yards know what to expect from us. And we're not doing too much risk management right now. I have actually this year started checking into it more as our numbers are getting bigger. For a long time I felt like I didn't really have the scale or the numbers to make it feasible, but that's changing as we're increasing, and so it's something that I feel like might be the next step in kind of the evolution of the process. All of our backgrounding is done in the dry lot, and a lot of it's due to the cow herd size we have, that we don't have a lot of extra pasture to dedicate to them. And we like the silage feed program, so we don't run much out on open pasture. It's pretty much all dry lotted, even through the summer or whenever it is. And I like to have the calves up closer just to watch things better. And I think if I continue down this path of background in a lot of calves and growing that the next step might be putting up, I've looked at some hoop type buildings and some other type buildings that are dedicated backgrounding confinement facilities, and I think that's something I want to look at as we move down the path. Everybody's situation is different, and feed prices is what drives, one of the main things that drives this business. With our situation, we have a lot of infrastructure in place already. We have silos already, we have concrete, we have the feedways. And so we have kind of taken the stance that we need to, continue to try to utilize that infrastructure, so maybe it buffers us a little more if you're about at a point where corn might be more valuable to put it in the grain bin and haul it to town versus putting it in a silo. But we're not having to buy bags, rent a bagger, any of that expense, because we've already got the silos and the infrastructure here. So we try to utilize what we have. We have a lot of land that's not suitable for row cropping, so I don't see us getting out of the cow business. And as long as we're doing that, I want to continue to maximize on that. So unless something really went wild in the industry, I don't see us really deviating too much from our plan.